Gun a nigga down, drop a diss. RP, Lil Pint, pour for that drip. Oh, we know run down, go sticks. Let my Uda catch him lacking and ain't hopping out the whip. See all that hate through these Cardis. Call that fresh homo for pardon. Casamigos don't sip no Bacardi. Rappin' Brooklyn like Biggie and Harden. Ride that AR with the scope. Pull up with coach. Now he a ghost. Kill a op to make a toast. Hit that op trees while she driving a boat. Stuffing the stick in a glizzy. Clip came see-through just like Busy. Hoolies gon' spin till he dizzy. Spider-Man hop out the Rizzy. Catch a body then hit up the jeweler. I got 20 blue tips in a Ruger.
Alright. Let me call Mr. Paul Hooper, CEO of our HVAC group. Life as an HVAC chairman. It's better than life as a steel chairman, I assure you.
I'm just on call at the moment, so
call me when you're free. Call me when you're free. Yes, life as an HVAC chairman is much less stressful than life as a steel chairman. So I've come to discover. That said, I do owe lots of loyalties to life as a steel chairman and formerly life as a steel CEO, because I did run that company for like 6 years and it was a big part of my life. Let's see what the Warriors can do.
Yeah. So if you had to make 2026 the best deal-making year of your life, how would you approach it? The episode is about deal flow, by the way.
I love it. I can tell.
How to get flow in the deals.
This is a deal flow episode, huh? I can feel it. Okay. How would you make this year the best deal flow year? I'll answer this question in two dynamics, right? So the first is my current reality, and then I'll sort of make it more relevant to the audience. So my current reality is I am not that involved in deal flow, frankly, currently, because there's so much going on all the time. We've previously worked with buy-side deal brokers who go out and represent our interests and interface with business owners, even the ones that are not listed for sale. Try to get in front of them, tell them about our buyer profile, whether it's for the steel group or whether it's for the HVAC group, put those in front of us as potential deals to look at. We would then take a closer look and decide whether or not to proceed to the next step. And even when I say we, both our steel group as well as the HVAC group have CEOs in place. And so it's not something I was doing alone. I was doing it in conjunction with the CEOs that are in place. And so at this stage, having done this for 8 years, my personal involvement in deal flow is somewhat minimal. I get involved when we have already identified a viable company, and it comes down to like trying to figure out a transaction that makes sense. And then lastly, trying to actually get a deal done. That's where I add value today. That being said, if I hawk my memory back to 2018, all I did was deal flow. Life was deal flow. I had nothing else going for me but deal flow. I would show up in the office, have a cup of coffee, and look for businesses. As I was taking, the train at the time, I wasn't really driving those days, walking towards the train station, and I would walk past a van, for example, on the road. Maybe I would read what was written on the side of the van. That would inspire thoughts. What do these people do? Is it a painting company? Is it a chemical distributor? What do they do? Where are they going? Right? Where are all of these commercial vehicles heading? They're coming from somewhere and heading to somewhere else, i.e. there's commerce being transacted. What is the source of this commerce? I would try to get inspired. And I would then say, okay, in the UK market, what types of companies do this similar service? I would spend endless amounts of time, this is before ChatGPT, Googling different sectors, trying to understand where opportunities could be. I was throwing myself out there. I was like making cold calls to business owners, introducing myself formally and asking whether they could have an interest in an unsolicited offer for their company. I was asking people to introduce me to friends, family, associates, leads, targets. I was doing everything all the time. And I never stopped doing that, really, until I started buying companies. If this is your first year or your second year trying to buy a business and you're very much in the early deal flow stage, my question wouldn't be, what should you do? My question would be, what are you not doing? And why are you failing to do that? You should essentially throw everything at it. I mean, either you're serious or you're unserious. If you're serious and you want to buy a company this year, what are you not willing to do? Presumably, you're willing to do literally anything. I mean, the point here is it's much harder for me to give you specific examples. What I can offer you is inspiration. The inspiration to be, you should feel as though every waking moment that you're not either investing time with your family, loved ones, and friends, or trying to learn a skill that's somehow beneficial to this journey, every waking moment should likely be thinking about deal flow or taking some steps towards trying to get a business in front of you that may or may not consider an offer. That's it. There's really no magic to it. It's just consistency, repetition, showing up, the veracity with which you approach the subject, the sincerity with which you approach the subject. People can smell it on you if you're serious. So that's my answer. I mean, I know it's not an ideal response because I'm not sort of giving you a roadmap, but what I would say is I would literally not walk on the street without looking at the vans, the trucks, everything, and thinking, geez, I wonder what they do. Geez, I wonder how I could compile a list of those businesses to see whether or not they happen to make viable targets as a sector. Geez, I wonder who the business owners are behind these specific businesses. Geez, I wonder if they would be interested in me putting an offer in front of them. Geez, I wonder if they'll even take a phone call with me, and testing all of those hypotheses all the time. It never stops. Irrespective of where you get the ideas or the inspiration, the point should be every week you need to be trying to get in front of business owners. And I would say what you really need to be doing is getting offers in front of business owners, having had meetings with them. And I would say try to get in a position where you can make 30 bona fide offers. Ask 30 people to sell you their business. And, the chances that one of them says something that you could interpret as a yes is not low. So do the work. If the question is, what is the work? Well, I can't give you a prescription. I can only give you inspiration. Do anything that looks like the work. If you can think of it and it looks like the work, do it. Don't wait for permission. This is a permissionless game. You only need permission from a very few handful of people. 1, the current owner of the business. Are they willing to give you permission to be the new owner? 2, whoever makes the decisions at the bank or the credit company. 3, assuming you don't have equity yourself, potentially an investor. That's it, 3 counterparties and you're in business. The equivalent of 3 yeses, and you skip a generation. Oscar now introducing me to potential capital partners and investors.
You're welcome.
Sounds like an interesting guy. Looking forward to meeting him. We have a meeting in 1 minute though.
Hey, sir. How are you?
Good, and you?
Hey, champ, how's it going? What's your guys' setup? So my understanding is you guys have a multifamily office. So
No, that's not really it. Basically, we're only managing what our family owns.
okay. One, I had a very good call with a guy. His family run a family office in Luxembourg. In theory, they would like to have a look at backing us. And I said, well, if they were gonna, fund us equity-wise to go get the debt with the seller finance, it's probably a £4 million equity ticket. He's come back and said, well, realistically, on the first deal, they wouldn't be comfortable deploying more than £1 million in theory, right? Got protein shake.
Yeah.
What's your question?
Should one outsource to a broker, hire a team of interns, or do it entirely alone?
I think don't hire a broker if you can't afford to hire one. And I would sort of say affordability is less about your liquidity, it's more about your ability to have a current business absorb that invoice. So if you're currently a business owner that has the ability to expense a buy-side broker, which typically costs £1,500 to £2,000 a month, then that's a very good way to sort of invest. Or if you've already bought a business, and having bought the business, the company that you now own through having bought it can absorb that invoice, then I would say use a broker. But if you're sort of raw dogging it and you haven't done a deal yet and all of your expenses come directly out of your pockets, I would not advise you hire a broker, just because it's probably a year worth of, it's a year long investment. So essentially you're talking, call it £24,000 or more, maybe 30 over a year, maybe 15 months of really getting them to the stage where you start closing the deals that they found you. It's an unnecessary liquidity exposure in my opinion. Now, there's a lot of value in doing it yourself, because then you sort of understand what the it is, right? What is it that you do? And there's a lot of value in failing. Because, I speak to a lot of people, man. They all have some similar questions. And a lot of the time, it's some version of like, this isn't happening fast enough. It's some version of, damn it, I've been doing this for all but 8 weeks and I still don't own a business. And it's like, really? Really, huh? Okay. I would love to know what it is that you can get results for within 8 weeks. You can't learn how to be a damn circus clown in 8 weeks. You know what I mean? All but learn how to tie your shoes, I'm sure. as a circus clown in 8 weeks. So there's nothing that you get results for in 8 weeks. You have to pay the price. You have to do the work. You have to feel the resistance. The world says you can't have it. Okay, you want a thing, and the world says no, you can't have it. You have to stay in whatever job you're currently employed in. You have to stay in whatever economic situation you find yourself in. You need to stay in whatever tax bracket you happen to be born into. That's the world's opening position. No. And so now the question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to accept that no? Or are you willing to do whatever is necessary, invent the necessary, figure this out, hustle, call in favors, think of ways to approach this that I haven't thought of? I mean, shit, it's not like I'm a genius. I haven't thought of every single way to approach this. I'm just a dude that's been doing this shit through trial and error for the last 8 years. I'm now handing you my playbook, but you can invent a better playbook. There's no law that says Oscar can't do a better job at this than I did. Shit, Oscar, you might make 100 times the money I made, or have 100 times the success that I've enjoyed. You might become the next Brad Jacobs. There was once a time where Brad Jacobs wasn't but a young man trying to figure this out. So the world is not static, so go figure it out. But how do you figure it out? Through action, trial and error, through pushing back against resistance, through suffering, through failing and trying to come up with new inventive ways to circumvent those intermittent failure points. That's how you make progress. That's how you get traction. So I would say, go do it, man. And then they're thinking, do what? Well, shit, man, go figure it out. I can't even give you that playbook. All I can say to you is deal flow debt equity. Go look for businesses and try to convince the business owner that you are an ideal buyer for that business. Read between the lines. However you interpret that, go take those actions. I never doubted for a second that I was going to figure this out. So go figure it out, man. Understood.
You always talk about deal flow.
Mm-hmm.
How would you keep the flow going?
How would you keep the deal flow going?
Mm-hmm. Because it's a flow.
Okay, I hear you. Let me answer it in another way. We talk about deal flow as if it's a verb, i.e. deal flow is something that you do. But I actually don't think deal flow is a verb. I think deal flow is more of a description. It is a description of an outcome that typically never ends. So then the question is, if deal flow is not a verb, if it's not something that you do, it's not like you wake up in the morning, brush your teeth, get a cup of coffee, and deal flow. So what are you actually doing? What are you doing that then ends up having the outcome that is referred to as deal flow? So firstly, let's label deal flow appropriately. What is it? It is shorthand. It's just a term that finance bros and finance gals came up with to illustrate the process of having access to, reviewing of, and making analyses and decisions around investment opportunities. That's it. Deal flow is simply access to transaction potentials that you then review and make judgment calls on. It's not a verb, it's not something that you do. So what do? What you do is either through your computer, through your telephone, or through face-to-face interactions, you engage with other people. Who are these other people? There's a whole host of stakeholders. They are people that currently own a business that you may or may not be interested in having acquisition discussions about. It is people representing those business owners, i.e. brokers. It is people that neither represent those owners nor are those owners, but maybe have leads and information that could lead to you getting access to those owners. It is interacting and engaging with these sorts of people, either through email, through telephone, or through physical interactions. Then the question becomes, well, what are you discussing with these people? What are you saying? And what I advocate for is you tell them the truth, whatever your truth may be. Your truth may be that you've never done this before, you may or may not have direct access to capital, but you're highly motivated to try and get them the liquidity that they would be seeking as part of a deal, and that you personally feel as though you would do a decent job at stewarding that business as the new owner. Tell them this. Tell this to the counterparties. Tell it to the people who you're asking for introductions through leads through their network. Tell it to the business brokers who are representing clients that have companies formally listed for sale. Tell it to the business owners, the people that own these companies that are considering whether or not you could be the bona fide buyer. That's the verb. The verb is in the doing. Deal flow in many ways is the outcome of the verb. And that's why maybe it's confusing, because what do you even mean deal flow? I mean, technically, if you review 10 deals a year, you have deal flow, right? Because you're reviewing deals. The question is that sufficient to satisfy your desire? If your desired outcome is to actually buy a business, I would challenge it and say it's not sufficient. So the question then is, what is sufficient levels of deal flow? What is a sufficient level of deals being reviewed? Deals under observation, transactions being assessed, offers being made. And I think hundreds of businesses at varied levels of observation, varied levels of interest and counter-interest, varied levels of discourse, whereby you make dozens of offers and have those evaluated such that the business owner can decide whether or not they want to sell you the business. Then you've got deal flow. So your question, Oscar, is how do you keep the deal flow flowing and don't have it stop? I think you start with the inputs. And the answer to your question is about outputs. You control the output by managing the input. More input, higher chance of positive output. So the question is, how many times are you going to ask them to sell you their company? How many times are you going to make them an offer? How many times are you going to document that offer in written form such that it's a letter of intent? How many times are you going to try to handle the objections that represent the void between what you want or what you've offered and what their expectations are? And how many times are you going to push against the invisible wall that says you can't have it?
How can the person watching this create systems to move the needle? And do you have any advice to limit friction and unnecessary delays?
Okay, I see your point. So your question in that way is less about systems and more about what is the behavior,
Yeah.
right? Because I think quite often people don't understand what success behavior even looks like, because they're striving for success, meaning they haven't yet had any. They don't know how to behave. Therefore, they have no idea what they're doing, and they certainly know one thing: it's probably not good enough. I saw an interview with Michael Phelps. That's the world-famous swimmer. And what he was talking about was essentially his training regimen. And he said, Michael Phelps, this world-renowned swimmer, the best, fastest swimmer in the whole world, he said he literally trained and swam every single day, 365, for over 10, 11, 12 years. Christmas included, birthdays included, other people's bar mitzvahs, didn't matter. Where was Michael? He was in the swimming pool, swimming, getting his reps in. And I think most people don't understand just what it takes to actually get traction. So you see a man like that show up at the starting line at the Olympics, swim way faster than everyone else, and you don't understand what were the behavior that led to that success. And I think similarly, it's hard in business and in M&A to sort of grasp, what does it actually look like? What does it look like? What's a peek behind the curtain? And I've tried to show you this, Oscar, a few times. I mean, in my case, I try to remove time where time does not add value. Don't add time where time does not add value. So I'll be on a meeting, for example, with one of the CEOs, Paul, or one of the Pauls, and they'll say something like, we need to find this thing out. And typical behavior is to then say, okay, let's reconvene later, having found that out, have a new meeting where we discuss that as one of the line items, where literally what I'll do is I'll just think, who is the person that answers that question? And whilst we're still on the phone, I will add them to a three-way. And I don't give a shit if it's a lawyer, if it's an accountant, if it's one of, a shareholder, if it's an investor. Doesn't fucking matter. If it's someone deep in the organization, if it's the business owner, the company we're trying to buy, and we have a question, sometimes I'll just add them to the call and ask them the question. Because why add time where time doesn't add value? And I think a lot of people, they don't understand the cadence, the flow of activities that it takes to be successful. They think that, behavior can be interrupted, right? Activities are intermittent. You do a certain thing, you take a break. You then do another thing, you then take a break. Whereas for me, it's you do what is necessary. And sometimes what is necessary is very little, but quite often it is a lot of things all at the same time. without waiting. It's overlapping all at once. I mean, I'm having this shooting session with Oscar. I might get a phone call. I might literally pick up the call on camera, not adding time where time doesn't add value, because maybe there's someone calling that has to ask me something material. I had a call earlier today. Oscar was sat there recording me. I was about to send a certain shareholder circulation, and I got a phone call that literally changed the dynamic of the circulation of information I was otherwise going to send shareholders. So time is of the essence. And I would say when it comes to deal flow, don't get in this rut where you do a few activities, you tap yourself on the back, you feel sorry for yourself. Oh, no one has sort of offered to sell you their company yet. Get back to work, man. No one cares. No one cares about how hard it is. No one cares. And no one's waiting at a finish line to applaud you, really. So you need to dig deep. You need to ask yourself some tough questions. Do you really want this? What are you willing to do to get this? And you need to do it. And other than that, watch 0 to 100.